titled, What Do We Value, Desire, and Want? That's the name of today's session. Spilling over from yesterday.
Mm.
So what do we value? Just like holding in high regard, we're cherishing, we're dreaming, we're desire, part of our desire and want that we want. Do we think of things, material things, people, relationships to fill voids? When all we want is to enjoy life, enjoy each moment, or not, that we'd want to. We prefer joyful, happy moments over sad, painful, hurtful moments. Both are necessary. Both allow for growth,
Mm.
for new situations, for new possibilities. And when we remember, at least for me, when I remember that it's just a feeling that I'm going for, and I'm not connecting that feeling to my outer circumstances, outer material. It puts me in control of my feelings, of my emotions, of my experience. Which then means it's my choice of how I see each moment. And then I can appreciate a precious new day, like we're sharing this morning. Mona, thank you for the beautiful question.
Mm. And what came up for me, Tessie, as you were talking, was also because of her observation of values, was the value of our perception. And when you spoke the word cherish, what also came up for me was, what do we choose to devote ourselves to? I sat most of the day yesterday with my experience of the connection that we have with people that we love. And there was a sharing of a reconnection as a dad, and then the loss of a niece as an aunt. And so you were saying that there's room for growth with both positive and negative. And that took me back to the potential of the reconnection and the pain and the sadness of the loss. And how both those relationships and the sharing of them touched everybody so profoundly and differently. And what comes up for me with that also is how easily we slip into the expectation that connections with people that we love will just always be there. And whilst that can be very useful, it's also lends itself to losing the awareness of how much value there is with each interaction that we have, because we begin to take it for granted. And for me, that's also part of what happens just with so much of life.
Yeah, and it's in our interactions that everything happens.
Morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
And part of that is our relationship with ourselves.
And meaning if we don't see ourselves as whole, complete, and beautiful, we will look for things out there to validate, prove, or fill that, and it never will.
Yeah, as you guys know very well, the whole, this is a recurring theme throughout the last year, is how I relate to things, how I relate to situations, how I relate to people, how I relate to myself. It's all about interrelation. And taking a good close look at all of that. And as a result, my life experience is quite different than it used to be. And that's a good point, Jesse, about completeness. Because when you realize that on a certain level you're already complete, you realize that the same is true about the other people around you and the situations that you're in, and life in general are all complete. I think that's a huge part of the reason that we're here now, is to bring that into awareness, into general awareness. And as a result, bringing balance and harmony back to the planet.
And that doesn't mean we are complete with our life, with our what we're here for. It just means that we have everything. We are everything. And so much more.
Yeah, we're complete. We're complete at a soul level. But that needs to be realized in the 3D environment. Like, it needs to be embodied. That's kind of what I'm saying. The completeness that's true at our soul level needs to be embodied in the 3D. And there's a lot of resistance to that, both internal and external. Or another term that could be used for realized would be made manifest or manifested. Completeness manifested into form.
Welcome back, Mama.
So that value in every moment that we have, what comes up for me in putting words into it is the experience of the depth of the expansion. And when I can take my attention to that, I have this explosion almost of my heart and a sense of absolute wonder and awe. And I can do that in moments. My challenge is to be able to bring that in when I am caught unawares, when I'm challenged by something that presses on an automatic defense for me. And to keep my, as they say, there's that little refrain, keep your eye on the prize. And the prize is to be more and more a manager of the ego, to value the ego, but to become more and more able to navigate it. And I think even more than that is to be able to dance between navigating it and dropping it altogether. And in that dropping to go beyond time, like you can when you go into the silence really deeply. And I guess I speak to that because I have come to, I would imagine it's a belief that there are more answers there. And there are answers. There's more understanding, there's more there's more worth, there's more value. In being able to do that. Because I do believe that when we can connect through love, despite the intensity of negativity that might exist in our situations, it changes the trajectory of that negativity, turns it around. It might not redeem it, but it certainly halts it, doesn't allow it to go into a bigger vortex. And for me, that's not just about people. It's really about the planet as a whole. And we're one species on it, the most powerful species. I'd like to change the trajectory of what we're doing on it. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Morning,
thank
Cinderella.
you. Good morning, Central.
Good morning, Grand Rising.
Morning, beautiful soul.
Good morning. Sounds like a beautiful topic. I was feeling it as you were speaking that, and I had just sent a message to my sister group saying, just in case somebody needs a reminder, God loves you and so do I. And then I come in here and you're talking about love. No matter what's going on, if you open your heart to love, it like you said, Allison, it keeps the 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 black hole from sucking you in to nothingness. And then you can feel that even if you're in that hole, you can just choose love, and it does change the whole ability of what it can be. But I had a question also just in my mind. I was like, we have free will to choose love. And then my mind just went to all of the animals. It's like, don't they, the way they maneuver, do they have a choice in the free will of things as far as how they function and flow and how they respond instinctively to what's good for them or bad for them? But either way, we're as humans supposed to be the predominant co-creating force that inhabits this realm of the existence.
And I guess that gives the contrast, right, Sandra? Because as you were talking about animals, what always comes up for me is that they live love, even you know, or not even, but they live their true nature, even being in contrast. So they will destroy life for their survival, but they only do it for that. They don't do it for the sake of destruction or greed.
Yeah. But it's so much to learn from them also.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that they listen more, they respond more instinctually
Mm.
than we allow ourselves to develop and listen to our instincts as one of our, wisdom intake abilities.
I often wonder too about their capacity for intuition as opposed to instinct.
Mm-hmm. So intuition, instinct. What's the let's can you spend some time defining that? I'm thinking.
Well, I'll summarize it very quickly for me, what it's become. And I've spoken a little bit with Jesse about this. So instinct for me is attached to the ego, and intuition comes from a different dimension.
Instinct. Intuition. So I'm still grappling with the difference there. So instinct feels like it comes from the physical for me and what we already have experienced versus intuition. It does seem to like flow from a higher realm of wisdom that we may not have experienced yet.
And I think that's a dimension beyond our body.
Say that again, please.
That comes from the dimensions beyond the body.
Yes. And beyond the subconscious.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's not such, it's easy to talk to. It's not that easy to separate those two out always. And the reason that I say that is that I've experienced people who are very psychic and their egos are completely out of order.
They must be fun people to be around.
Mm.
Yeah,
Not
they
so
aren't
fun.
mutually exclusive, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, but they're not.
Well, that's what I said. They're not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
You can have You can have you can have part of your energy in deep places like greed, and another part of your energy is trying to rise toward love and grace, so it's weird. But that's what happens when the ego's in control, right? As James said, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
And it is easy for us to see it in others than in ourselves.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to recognize when your ego is dominating and you've got that kind of capacity.
Yeah, because it's primarily an internal conflict.
Yeah, it is usually fueled by something that's not going right, or there's some frustration at the base of it, some defense.
Or a hidden motivation, like we talked
Hidden
about yesterday.
motivation. Yeah. And yeah. It can be all sorts of things. Aware of and unaware of. And when you really look at it, like with that interaction with two people, whatever, usually what I'm angry about is what I'm doing this. If I'm angry with someone else or frustrated, it tends that I do the same thing they are.
Yeah, you're just projecting your internal conflict.
We're matching it, yeah. And it's so hard to see because it's you. Oh, it's you. Because how could it ever be me? I'm always right because we all feel we are doing our best.
But even that is an ego assessment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
My ego is saying, I'm doing my best.
mm-hmm. And even in that, there's no room for better.
There's not even room for different.
Yeah, there you go. That's the other one too.
Yeah, because better would be an assessment too.
And I don't think even the worst things we do are all about making life worse. I think we're looking and we do things to like feel better about it. And we may not always think through it. And it's that experience of it, right? Even
I think our egos have a tough time even constructing better.
mhm, mhm. And I like, and if different, we say different, that is a neutral word that gives even more space than better. And as we're talking, it's like I lightly attach or combined their patterns, our past, our history, our automatics, our defaults, what we do, how we respond as part of our instinct and impulse. Then that could have been established in the past by our intuition. You know, and it sure could be because I think our intuition is our intuition is guided by our inspiration. And so as that inspiration comes down or through us, as a urge, as a longing, as a wanting and a desire and a valuing, right? We begin to make sense of what that is in our reality and through our intuition of that, which then is in working with our impulses and our instincts. It's like those they're coming together at the point. Our intuition and inspiration is coming together uh, with our instincts and impulses, and they're meeting at that point to take action every moment. So if the ego is the instinct and impulse, the heart, the ego and the unconscious, the emotional aspect of it, the action part, that is inferring the inspiration and intuition, right? There might be a little bias.
Yeah, I know my intuition isn't always pure. Like it's not always bang on. But it's, it's something they practice.
Right. I think it's more, for me, I find it's the interpretation of the intuition. Because it'd be really cool if it was just a note that dropped in your lap and said intuition, and it was signed by intuition. This is exactly what I want. And then even if that, then you'd have to decipher what that would mean anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm not really, I'm getting there, but I'm not really used to input, to living off input from my intuition like 24/7, because it's kind of like a new play toy in a way. You know, I've always had it, but it's always been suppressed.
I read a text now from someone and I feel an energy around it. Now, is that
Yeah.
intuition or instinct?
I'd say
Have I
it's
always
intuition.
felt it? And never paid attention to it, just responded to it. But now I can see it and be like, oh, look, that I was triggered this way with that. It sounds to me like I'm making it up almost, but so what? I can
Yeah,
choose how to respond to it.
you're realizing that there's an energy behind the words that the words
And
don't say, right?
yeah, and even if I typically, it's like I can, there's an edge in it, right? I'll really notice the edge once if someone's trying to get an edge on it or like make a point, right? It's like emphasis of it. So like if you went and asked them, they'd say no. You know, they're like, no, I don't mean that. I was just wondering. I was curious. It's like, okay, well, it didn't come across as curious and wonder then from my perspective, right? Who's right? Doesn't matter.
Nobody
It,
and
it
both.
doesn't matter, right?
No, it doesn't
Exactly. Who
matter.
cares? Just that it was there. It was something.
Yeah.
To me, in those texts, it is the intention that you are ready to stand for or own up to is what matters. Because it's
Yeah.
if you're going to avoid how it came across and how the words were received, and you feel like it was meaning a certain intention, if the person doesn't stand up to meet and agree with the way you received it, then it's a mute point. Well, to me, it sounded like such and such and such and such. No, don't get so defensive. That's not what's my intention. Okay, then what was your intention? Let me deal with it. Let me respond to that.
Yes.
Because if you're not
That's
going to put it on the table, we sure can't address it.
yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, Cinderell, is the energy behind things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's learning how to actually read the energy of the situation instead of
Mm-hmm.
that includes things like intention and um, motivation.
Angle, right? I mean, all sorts
Yep.
of things.
Yep.
And as
Spin.
Sindrell, yeah. And it's like really like let's be honest, let's be open with what it is that we're wanting or like what we're going for, because together we can get there. Just like different ways or different versions and when we include others in it, it will look completely different.
So I was talking to my nephew, and he's in a quasi leadership position, but not supported as he was said he would be, how it was said that he would be supported. So they promised some things, and now they're backtracking or not fulfilling some of the promises now that they got him in the position that they want him in. And so he was saying how he's, you know, they were saying some things, dancing around the issue of what they weren't supplying and why they weren't going to supply it, but not saying directly why they were not going to supply a stipend. And so we did a little role play of, I said, if you saw that and you felt that, tell me why you didn't address that. And he said, well, one, it took me off guard. I didn't expect it. I said, you know the arena of people that you're dealing with, even though you don't know that individual that's representing that arena. I said, do you? He says, yes. I said, from the arena, could you expect that? He said, yeah, kinda. I said, okay, I'll take kinda. Now that person comes from that arena and then they do the things that you have seen that arena do. But now it's in your face of how you get to respond and choose to respond to it. I said, so how can you address that another way? And so he was like, well, I want to be respectful. I said, do you consider yourself, take all titles away, you're a man, they're a man. Are they any more or less than you? So he had to think about it. Then he said, well, really not. I said, great, great. You're equals. You're equals. So if you don't want to accept, or you have questions, then why don't you just ask the questions? Oh, because they might get mad. I said, so you're feeding into their perceived ego and they're playing with yours as a child. I said, he said, yeah, I do feel like that. I said, okay. I said, but you're a man. How are you going to address it? If they put slop on the table, then, deal with it. Call them out on what they put on the table. And he was like, I didn't think of how to do that, but I don't want to really cause any waves. So I said, but they put you in charge. So take the authority that they've given you and give it back to them, that in order for you to support them in their authority, they need to support you with what they said they were going to give you to do your job. Otherwise, you're trying to do a job for them that they haven't equipped you with. So we played around, different role playings and stuff like that. And he said, I'm just dealing with a whole lot of ego. I said, yeah, but you also have to protect how you're developing yours consciously, to not become part of that arena. So how do you stay conscious of not becoming a subject, an object of that arena, and you represent yourself to the same people that you're serving? Because if they're dancing around you, you're going to have to end up dancing around the people that you're serving. And just like you see it through them, the people will see it through you, and you won't be doing the hard work that you've signed up for. So I think the buck stops with you. Not unless you want to really represent the very arena that is subjugating you to situations that you don't want to be subjugated to. So yeah, you're right, Aunt Cindy, you're right. I said, it's not about me being right. It's how you're gonna live. How you want to live. And only you can say what's right for you. That was a fun conversation. It helped me reflect on my own stuff as well,
Mhm. Yes, yes, they do. And see things that we may not have ever seen that way before. Mm. I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna say this, or rather how it's gonna come out, but I'm gonna go with it. And he is like in his situation, he was here's what I read of that is that I'm promoted to be more a leader, right? To take the initiative. And it was like, here's an opportunity to do that. And it's like, oh, like learning how to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like in that opportunity now, we don't know how the other party is going to respond, but we do know what we've done in the past. And I can see both ways. I can see a culture that works and expects certain things, like, yeah. And then I can see it in the other way where a culture is like setting it up for people to develop into that. And so it's like what we want is through what we don't want to do.
And some psychosomatics practices.
Right? It is. It's like, oh, it's like, I mean, there's shit. I had this report to get done, and oh, do I just hate doing it? Oh, hate it. I got it down so that it doesn't take any more than an hour, but man, I don't know how many hours and days did I delay it. Yeah. Oh, I get done. You know, it really isn't that bad every damn time. But through it, right, is the only way I get the resolution to let it go. Until next quarter. And if you just look at it, it's inside of my creative pattern, is what I put it in, is that people telling me that certain rules have to be done by certain times.
That drives me crazy.
Procrastination at its finest.
Sure is, isn't it, Mona?
Yep, put it off, put it off, put it off.
Yeah, it's double the time that it takes to get it done, because all of the thinking about it and justifying something else.
I think procrastination comes from the little kid in us that doesn't want to do something we have to do.
Yeah. In, yes, man. And It's like I sat with that. It's like an instinct, impulse. It's like, huh?
Well, I'll have to admit that my little procrastinator has been very well matured without being put in check. And I have to take accountability for that. So, yes.
I think procrastination's a superpower.
Okay. Come on. More.
It's a matter of intuitive timing for me.
Yeah, I've sold myself on that quite a bit and found a lot of comfort in it. But that's my
It turns
procrastination.
out that a lot of things we think have to be done don't.
What's an example of that, Craig?
Okay. Good example would be skipping a meal.
Mm. My procrastination usually is about something a bit more imminent to um, like paying a bill. I gotta pay it. I'm paying it, but I don't want to sit down and process the payments. Um, and so I may end up like some things are on automation, that's fine. But some things it's like, how long can I hang on to my money before I have to pay it? And sometimes it's not about that. It's about the feeling of um, just a rebellious part of me of not wanting to have to pay it, of not wanting to have to do something like the tax bill. But I'll wait until that last hour so that they don't get the money any sooner than I have to give it to them.
So is that procrastination or is it something else?
It's probably a lot of things, juggling, money managing. Because if I just had a whole bunch of stuff, then I would just pay all the bills on a particular date and not be concerned with holding on to it as long as I could before I released it. Because I don't want my accounts to go but so low. And I don't want my other accounts, my credit accounts to go but so high. So I'm just, playing a timing game.
Yeah. Sounds a bit like a survival instinct.
Yeah, that's probably that too. But that's just one example. So I've got a rug, I've got a shampoo. It needs to be done. It's going to need to be done today, tomorrow, last week. It's something that needs to be done. So putting it off it just seems like I just get to everything else but that.
Yeah. You've already been putting it off
Yeah, yeah.
for a long period of time.
So
You mean it
I
doesn't clean itself?
you know what?
Um,
They have the vacuums that just vacuum. Come on, give me a shampoo when it does this too. Come on now.
Yeah, that's what I find for me. It's like, oh, I'll just say maybe something else will take care of it. It'll take care of itself, right? It'll go away.
And then when your utility gets turned off, you realize it didn't go away.
Yeah, darn it. Yeah,
I hate it when that happens.
exactly. Take away the freedom, right? That was there for the obligation. It's like, oh, bummer, consequence. Mhm. Testing the boundaries, seeing how much we can get away with.
For how long?
For how long? Yep.
That's why I say procrastination seems to be the little kid in us.
I'm glad yours is a
Well,
little
because
kid.
when was
Mine
the right time?
sure.
When you were a little kid, the right time was always now.
Yeah.
Whenever you're
No,
told to do anything, it was like, do it now.
Which was never the right time to do it.
Right, right.
Somebody else was always telling you it was the right time.
Exactly, exactly. So you've lost your own sense of timing.
Yeah. Or never really had it. That's probably
Right. Well, not, that's what procrastination means to me, is that you're there's this idea that you have to be forced. Certain activities have to be forced. And usually that's not a good time to be doing it for most people.
Yep.
You know, it's not recommended to act under duress. We've been trained that way from a child.
And continued into adults, right? We'll turn
Yep.
it off if you don't pay the bill, right? They don't want to work under distress either.
Yep.
So certain standards are put in place in the world, right? That says, here you go. Match it. Obligated. Yep. Well, everyone, thank you. I've got to step off, get my day started. Thank you.
Thanks for a
this has
great
been a
morning.
this has been a lively session today.
Yeah, so glad you were here. So glad to
All right,
hear you.
Thanks for letting me participate.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Till next time, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
love and hugs, everybody.
Have a good day,
Gather
everybody.
till we gather again. Peace.
Thank you.